67% of your constituents voted to stay in the EU. They didn't want Brexit, let alone a no-deal Brexit. So why don't you take your seat in Parliament in order to make sure you can influence what happens next?
Well, my constituents also voted for a Sinn Fein MP who wouldn't take his seat here at Westminster.
How do you influence events then?
Well, you have to remember that, yes, except in Britain, the centre of political gravity may well be Westminster, but if you're a constituent of mine, it's Dublin and it's Brussels in Europe. We very much have been on the other side of the negotiating table, so the rights of Irish citizens, the rights of my farmers and the business community and the civic society who live along the border of my constituency, it's Brussels and the EU27 who've been protecting that, and that's where our influence has become to bear. That's where we have lobbied, that's where we've been.
But no deal isn't off the table, despite what some opposition MPs are trying to do. No deal isn't still off the table and may not be. Surely the stakes are so high that you should sit here and try and influence things and represent your constituents.
Constituents look in right across Ireland. They look in last night with complete bemusement. They see the theatre, the pantomime that Westminster has become over recent months, and there's no desire.
Opposition MPs are on the cusp of stopping a no-deal Brexit, which is what you would want.
There is no desire to be in there to be part of that. They know the rights, the issues that they want, the interests of Ireland have never been represented by a Westminster Parliament. They know that.
Why do you take the salary?
I don't take a salary.
You don't?
I don't get a salary from Westminster.
Right.
You should know that, Victoria.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, people living in Ireland know their rights and their interests are represented by Dublin and by the EU27 when it comes to Brexit. You can't tell me that Boris Johnson's government's going to represent the rights of the people living in Ireland.
Will you vote today, Jeffrey Donaldson, to ensure the UK doesn't leave the EU without a deal?
Well, we want to deal with the European Union, but you completely undermine the UK government's negotiating position when you throw away their strongest bargaining point. And that's the problem with this. People say they want a deal, they want to avoid no deal, and I'm absolutely with them on that. But the best way to avoid no deal is to get a deal that Parliament can support. And bear in mind, many of the MPs who voted last night against the government are MPs who voted against the withdrawal agreement before on 3 occasions, like me, because they have real concerns about what the EU are proposing, the impact it would have on the UK.
Sorry to interrupt. You know there is no evidence that serious proposals have been put forward from Number 10 to the EU.
Well, Victoria,
no one believes that.
The Prime Minister has only been in office a matter of a few weeks. I do know this, that there are serious discussions taking place in Downing Street and with other key stakeholders to draw up and present those proposals to the European Union. If we're going to get this right, we need to work hard to ensure that the proposals are not only capable of reaching an accommodation with the EU, but capable of having the support of Parliament as well.
Does it not concern you that only 6% of cross-border businesses are ready for no deal? I mean, how big a hit to the economy are you willing to take?
Well, we don't want to take a hit for the economy in Northern Ireland. We want to see Northern Ireland prosper. But we're working with the government to introduce mitigation measures in the event that no deal happens. But the best way to avoid no deal, which is what we want to do, is to get a deal with the EU. So how does last night make it easier for the UK government to negotiate a new deal with the European Union? That's the problem I have with what MPs who say they want to avoid no deal did last night. They're actually making it more difficult to get a deal, which raises the suspicion in many people's minds that what they really want to do is to stop Brexit altogether.
And there is suspicion in some people's minds that you want a no-deal Brexit, despite people like Barbara Gray, Assistant Chief Constable, heads up the Counter-Terrorism Response Unit for the Police Service of Northern Ireland, saying that Brexit without a deal could become a motivating factor for extremists in the event of a disorderly exit. She says, we predict a 6 to 12 month period. If there's a no-deal Brexit, there could be an upsurge in violence.
But with respect, Victoria, the violence is already happening.
Sorry.
I don't know if the BBC reports it anymore, but we had an attempt recently to murder police officers on the border while we're still members of the European Union, while there is still no infrastructure on the border.
And Barbara Gray is saying there'll be an upsurge.
To be clear,
with a no-deal
to be
Brexit.
absolutely clear, Victoria, are you seriously suggesting that the United Kingdom should determine its future because it's threatened by terrorists who don't accept the rule of law, who don't accept any constitutional outcome other than what they demand? We should all be rejecting terrorism. We should not be trying to explain why it happens. Of course I don't want violence, but neither do I want no deal, by the way. I want to get a deal with the European Union and I want to honour the wishes of my constituency and of the people of the United Kingdom who voted to leave the EU.
If there is a no-deal Brexit, would you anticipate an upsurge in violence, as Barbara Gray potentially does?
Well, you only have to look at the assessments from the civil service at home in Belfast, and of course the British government's own scenario planning around this, where senior police constables, senior people within the security apparatus have identified that as a major issue. Okay. But I go back to Jeffrey's earlier point. There has been a deal on the table for quite some time now. A deal that is, at the very bottom line, had a backstop that protected all the interests, all the issues that Jeffrey talks about. But the DUP have refused to back those people they're supposed to represent and to back that deal. They haven't done that.
Thank you both very much. Thank you. Chris Hazzard from Sinn Fein, Jeffrey Donaldson from the DUP. Thank you.
We will make America great again.